No. 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 To deal with me. No, not the mask. No, not that. No. Don't come in. Don't come in. I cannot sleep. I guess I should just edit this video then. Nothing bad is gonna happen, nothing's gonna come in, not this Halloween special. Why would it? Why would it? It's not even a video, it's a podcast. Rabbi Pie, what a classic line. Like, what? Oh, you missed me, right? What in the actual hell? You're supposed to say, who are you? That's kind of the joke. I've had enough. I've had enough of you just coming in, whether it's a Halloween video, whether it's a Christmas video. I'm just fed up of there being bloody skit characters who are only in here for skits that only appear on certain themed videos. I've had enough of it. I just want to edit a video in peace without you storming in here. I don't know how you know where I live. I don't know why you keep coming in here only for these videos. But frankly, I've had enough of it. I'm here because you simply didn't do your Christmas special last year. So I'm here to remind you to do one this year, you lazy son of a... I don't care if I didn't do a Christmas special last year. I'm doing a Halloween special now. That's all you need to worry about. I'm doing that now. So that's what I'm doing. Just get out. Just stop. Just get out of here, for God's sake. Alright. Okay. It's not even Christmas. Oh, what? For God's sake. Anyway, let's get on with this video then. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cosmic Convention, the Pickles Parker Podcast where we talk about the greatest show in the galaxy, Doctor Who. Now, today is a bit of a different episode because it's a Halloween themed episode, very spooky. Now, today I'm joined by returning guest Tharries. Say hello.
Hello, and I'm going to start off this podcast by turning your audio down a little bit.
Oh, Christ. Yeah. Tom Harris, everyone, and we're also joined by someone who hasn't featured yet. It's Cynical Who.
Hello, I'm here to ruin the podcast. Just to go back to what Tom said, you were very... How many episodes of this podcast have you done?
Oh, this is the 6th one, I think.
Okay, because you sound very enthusiastic. When you get to, a certain number, you'll start to not be bothered. Me and Tom have been through that. And it's kind of quite a mouthful. Do you manage to nail that intro every time?
Me? No, I've got it written down.
Oh,
yeah.
We do the Harbour one. I think we've all gotten to a point with that where we just don't do it. Because it's a Patreon thing as well. I think we're all just like...
On the first one, we went for hours. Nowadays, it's just sort of not giving a crap about Tom or Victorious. And...
yeah, because there's nothing else to talk about beyond that. True. And I don't know, Revolution of the Daleks images of tables. It's that's about it. That's all there is. It's what? Yeah. What do you want us to talk about?
True. I mean, you've exhausted all the 13th Doctor in prison videos on your channel, Tharries. So
I was going to say
that is true.
How many videos have you made about Revolution of the Daleks now?
What about the promotional images?
Just about it in general. Just about.
Right. Let me. I'm going to count this live. I'm shit at counting, but we're going to go anyway. Okay. Well, does that include things that clickbait it?
Yeah, probably.
Right, hang on. Okay, I gotta go back a bit further. Okay. Oh, I'm going back quite far here.
I think it's more you make. Wait.
One. Okay, 1, on one page, and then the next one, two, next page.
This is the Halloween special.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, I think.
Okay. I mean, how many more are you gonna make then?
Well, obviously one on the trailer when that comes out, one on the teaser when that comes. Basically, one on the trailer for the trailer, one for the trailer itself, one for the final trailer.
You know, people do like YouTubers do like Christmas things when they do a video every day leading up to Christmas from December. You should do a revolutionary night.
To be fair, I did consider making like December a bit of a Dalek month anyway.
What? So just copying Mr. Target?
Yeah, but like not like that, but not the same thing. But it's all about like revolution and stuff. Like I got a video essay that I'm working on, so probably release it around then. Maybe like a Dalek ranking or something. I don't know. Just make it all Dalek themed because I've got there's a lot of Cyberman bias on my channel. It seems I've noticed this. There's a lot of Cyberman videos, which makes sense because they're my favourite. But like, feel kind of bad for sort of.
What you got planned for the next month, 2 months actually? Then George.
Me? What in terms of on the channel and stuff? I don't really know. Just like general videos. I've got videos planned. I was gonna do because I made a video on this like a couple of months ago that I was gonna do like every single Doctor Who story ranked and like have like it in different parts across all of December. But the problem is, every single one, because over lockdown I was like marathoning both the revived series and the classic series like simultaneously. So I'm writing like mini reviews. So I was like gonna do all of this, and then I just kind of gave up on my classic Doctor Who marathon.
I'm in quite a dangerous place at the moment because I want to listen to some of them, re-listen to some of the Big Finish again, but I want to marathon every story again, which I did 2 years ago, no, a year ago. I never finished it, and I want to start again with all the Big Finish included, which is a really dangerous decision because that would be very taxing. And I was talking to Harbo, and I was like, "What if I reviewed every single story for a video? Like, did a video on every single one?" And I couldn't do it.
Christ. Yeah.
I mean, I admire anyone who has the willpower
to
watch that much Doctor Who like consecutively. Like I think it's one of those shows you need to sort of watch another show afterwards. It's like sometimes it does get a bit much if you just watch Doctor Who constantly.
That's what I was doing in lockdown. It was just a classic Doctor Who story every single day, as well as a revived Doctor Who story every like couple of days, and it was like ridiculous.
When a new series comes out, especially these days, I feel they need to like detox afterwards. I feel like there needs to be like a part of my life where I just don't, watch any Doctor Who after that.
It was the beginning of last year. I did a 60s marathon with all the reconstructions and everything else thrown in. I managed to I think I managed to get through quite a few in a day. I think I remember doing like the Mythmakers, Mission to the Unknown, and the Daleks Master Plan in one day. I don't know how.
How much time do you have?
It was like in the holidays, so I just sat on my bed and just festered with what was on in the background.
It's quite a scary experience watching all that Doctor Who. Segue into scary Doctor Who. So obviously it's a Halloween podcast. Viewers may have not got that by the first 5 minutes, but it is a Halloween podcast. And
I'm your scariest guest so far.
Halloween, scary. So I've got some topics on here. I guess like the obvious ones. Scariest Doctor Who story. What are your guys scariest Doctor Who stories, I guess?
Does this include the spin-offs or no?
If you want to, like whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna say Day of the Clown. That was the thing that made me afraid of clowns. Goddamn Bradley Walsh. He comes back to haunt me after.
Still get PTSD now.
I do literally still get PTSD over it. So I'm gonna say Day of the Clown. For me, that traumatized me as a kid.
I don't want to be cliche to say something like Midnight or Waters of Mars, but those are genuinely scary. Again, I know Tom's really fed up of me going off with my obscure Big Finish. Scherzo, that really terrified me. Chimes of Midnight.
I thought you were going to say Zagreus, to be fair.
Zagreus is funny. I don't think that's pretty. Some of it's scary, but
The greatest sleeps inside your. Sorry, I had to sort of,
have any of you listened to Zagreus?
I haven't listened to Zagreus.
Not really. I just know like the memes. So like when I think it was, is it Phoenix Smith's video, The Eighth Doctor, and he just starts reciting Zagreus at the end and like pinning pictures of the Eighth Doctor to his wall. Like that's
my evening. I was like Zagreus before I go to sleep.
Yeah, that seems like something you would do, to be fair.
It does.
Right.
Yeah, I can agree with you, Cynical, on Waters of Mars for me in particular was one I was always like creeped out. I'm pretty sure it was like, it would have been like 2011 or early 2012 when I first watched that, and I'm pretty sure then the second time I watched it would have been like 2017. It was like, I did watch it for so long just because it was like creeped me out so much, and it's just something about that atmosphere.
I remember when they released, what was it, the Water of Mars and End of Time on DVD. They released it in this weird box set together. I don't know if any of you ever saw that, but I got that when it came out, and I was quite young at the time, and my Water of Mars was rated 12, and I was quite young, so my mum wouldn't let me watch it. And I remember, so I would only be able to watch End of Time, and I think I was like, she was out one day, I must have been like 7 or something, and I put on Water of Mars, and the cover like used to scare me, so I watched it half under my duvet and just like peeked out and like just hid for the scary parts.
You rebel watching Waters of Mars.
Yeah, I know.
Absolute,
when Mum's not home.
Absolute scum.
To be fair, I don't know why like some Doctor is rated like a 12, because it's like, it's not violent. There's like no
I kind of
like
get it in
swearing
the
in
Moffat era a bit more, because there's like some like jokes in that like era in particular that I was like, wait, that was in it? I was like, okay. I was like,
I was watching Dinosaurs on a Spaceship last night in my marathon, and it's just like filled with just constant innuendos. It's like, I'm surprised Chibnall got away with some of that stuff, because some of it is like very obvious. But I always just thought, because I've like watched a lot of superhero movies and they're mostly rated 12, but I always thought usually they're either for like violence or whatever, but usually for like language. But in Doctor Who, like no characters swear at all, so it always like confused me why I was given a 12.
Apart from Ian Chesterton.
I think
in the
part of it might be the as we said, the sort of certain themes of certain episodes, and the other part might be like the scariness aspect of it. Like certain episodes, I suppose, could be quite traumatizing to young kids. Like, they, I guess, I don't know, that's just my guess. Like, say for example, you watch something like, I know the Lazarus Experiment looks terrible by like today's standards. Like, you show a kid that, like, who's that's like true. 5.
It's like a woman's skeleton like hits the floor, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is.
But even just like the giant scorpion thing in itself looks quite scary. Like, like kid, so I'm guessing that's the reason. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I guess, like, for me at least, in terms of like scary stories or scary episodes, it's usually for me like the ones like you wouldn't be able to escape from. So like when I was younger, I was always just terrified of the Daleks, but it wasn't really like the Daleks from any like particular story that scared me. It was more of just like the idea
that I never had that issue. I could just
I've never been scared by the Daleks.
I think for me it was more of like just the idea that like they could be gaining on you and it would just not stop and you wouldn't be able to like escape from them, was the idea that always used to creep me out as a kid. But it's like it wasn't from like any particular story. It was just like just there. I imagine it was probably I got some of it from Dalek.
I used to find the clockwork droids.
I watched that one a few months ago now, but maybe a month or two ago. That is quite scary. It's a really sad episode as well.
Yeah, I just remember like finding the way they moved and their masks really unsettling.
Yeah.
So I think them as well for sure.
Maybe
I guess like night terrors as well. That's quite.
I used to get quite creeped out by night terrors.
I think what desensitized me to being scared by all the monsters that I had 5-inch plastic copies watching over me while sleeping. I was like, right, guys. I'm not really scared by them because I'm literally bigger than them.
Yeah, I think for me it's a lot of like what creeps you out changes, because like now I think the idea of the Cybermen is like quite creepy. But when I was younger, I never found the Cybermen scary at all. I don't know whether that was just the stories I was watching, because it was obviously like, you know, with the Cybermen and not like the old 60s Cybermen. So that was probably why I wasn't creeped out.
We're like, hello! Why don't you come over here for a cup of tea? Yes, hello there! But no, I think like the Cybermen. I think I didn't find them scary. I still don't, but I think I find the concept.
Yeah.
Or anything like them themselves is probably not scary. It's the idea of them than what you actually see. If that
I think so.
But similarly, like I think that's why a lot of people think that Weeping Angels are scary. It's because it's the concept of something that you can only, you know, you could. If you turn away from it, it could get you, and you can do nothing about it.
Never, like the Weeping Angels. I've always thought that Weeping Angels. They never scared me. They were really overrated. I don't like. I mean, Blink's okay. I like Blink, but it's not the best.
I prefer the. I've said this before. I prefer the Matt Smith 2 parts.
I'd agree with you.
I can't stand that. I can't stand that one.
We just feel like Matt Smith in general. So.
Yeah. I mean. I was watching your Series 6 review earlier, George.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I saw your comment.
Well, I think I like Series 6. I think Series 6 is my favourite Matt Smith season purely for the fact I can just watch it. Like binge it, apart from... I'll miss out like the Doctor's Wife. Yeah.
I've never found it particularly bingeable.
Bingeable, is that what?
Bingeability.
Well, I don't like the Doctor's Wife, and I don't like.
What's wrong with you? I still don't get that.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not like the Doctor's Wife? That's like the best episode of that series.
I think the best episode is Day of the Moon, maybe.
Interesting.
Like, I used to really think the God Complex was like right on my street. I was like, that's a really good idea, and then I watched it and I was like, this is crap. Like the acting's awful. It's just really bad.
I can't agree with you, unfortunately. But
sorry.
There you go. Now, to be fair, my parents didn't really like The Doctor's Wife because they're like, it's like my mum thought it was crap. I was like, what? It's brilliant. So I understand. Like, obviously, people are different tastes and stuff. To be fair, I didn't. Like, I watched Doctor's Wife early on in the year, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and I thought, you know, it was alright, but I thought it was a bit overrated. I just found Idris really irritating. No, I watched it in my marathon, and I thought, actually, I do actually quite like this, so, you know...
on the logic of, like, our mums and stuff, like, the Doctor would never be old, or, you know, or a woman, or unattractive. They would all look like David Tennant. They'd all literally just be the same Doctor in a different outfit every now and again. That was literally like David Tennant clones. That's all they would be like. Literally, the BBC would create a cloning device and put David Tennant into it. That was what Doctor Who would be if like mums were in charge of it. The amount of like mums I hear that say, "Oh, let's stop watching it." David Tennant.
To be fair, after watching The Doctor, the Wheel and the Wardrobe, my mum turned to me and said that was a brilliant episode, so I don't know if I can trust her opinion anymore. But anyway, yeah.
It does have the lady from Outnumbered in it, though.
True. What were we talking about? I can't... Oh, yeah, Series 6. Yeah, I think that... Actually, that's another one, The Doctor's Wife. I think why I like the episode so much, it's actually not really to do with Idris. It's more to do with, like, House and, like, the stuff that happens in the TARDIS. I just think that's, like, quite cool and quite creepy and, like, trippy and stuff. I always found that quite creepy. I think when you see the old glory.
I think Idris was just a bit that let it down for me. She was so irritating.
She is quite irritating. It's like, if you'd picture the TARDIS as a human, I'm not sure she'd be exactly what you would have thought, but... I
think, like, she falls into that trope of that era of, you know, let's make the female characters as annoying and overly sexual as possible.
Yeah, true.
Because, like, it seems to... I've noticed this, like, when I go back and watch it, it's like, damn, they really didn't hold back on the, you know, hey, sexy and all that stuff. It's like, Jesus Christ, you really notice it now.
Yeah.
Especially when you can, like, compare it to this sort of character that doesn't have any.
That's true. That's very true.
Any of those feelings on display whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you can go back to like Matt Smith, where they're all like, "Oh, It was my husband and your glass floor.
Oh,
and all
Christ.
Oh,
I was watching Asylum with the Daleks, and Oswin is just exactly what you were describing. Like, that's all she is, really. And yeah, it is a bit like, even when you get onto like Capaldi, and there's like that weird line which I hate, when Capaldi's like, "Do you think of my new body?" And River's like, "Oh, I've only seen the face," and it's like, oh, what is this? But yeah,
I don't want to.
I forgot that. Oh no!
I don't want to think of the Peter Capinas, if you know what I mean.
Whoa!
Probably gonna get you out, but
oh Christ! To be fair, that is something that is truly horrifying. I think we found the scariest Doctor moment right there. Oh Christ! Oh dear. Yeah, I think you have a good.
I wondered how he broke down the wall in Heaven Sent.
Oh Christ!
We've derailed this completely.
It is. We certainly have. Forgot what we're even supposed to be talking about. Scary Doctor Who things. To be fair, that kind of fits the bill. Yeah, exactly.
That is very scary. Doctor
It is
Who.
very scary. So I guess we've covered, like, obviously you guys mentioned some scary Doctor Who stories, and obviously onto like scary monsters and things. I suppose, like, obviously you mentioned like the Weeping Angels and things. I think they're probably more scary in The Time of Angels than they are in Blink, because for Blink, I think Blink as a story is more like focused on the idea of the angels sending you back in time rather than the angels themselves. When I watched it, it's obviously everyone lauds Blink as like a masterpiece, and it is good, but everyone's like, "Oh, the Weeping Angels were never better than they were in Blink." But when I was watching it, the angels aren't in it an amazing amount, like compared to like The Time of Angels, where they're kind of like the focal point. It is more about, like I said, like the idea of, you know, the angels send you back in time. You've got the whole thing with like the DVDs and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I think in Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, when they kind of eliminate that send you back in time, it's much more focused on like, don't blink, the angels could get you, and all that kind of stuff, which is why I think that's just more scary, I guess. Yeah, I suppose, like,
you were talking about scary Doctor Who moments in general again. I was going to say, has anyone seen Dragonfire?
Oh yes, I have seen Dragonfire, yeah.
I was just thinking of the end. There's that shot of the guy's face.
Oh yeah,
That's scary.
yeah, that is
There's
quite
some really
scary, especially for the time. Like,
yes, there's a lot of scary designs in Classic Who. Like,
yeah, I think so. I think
A lot of people find, like, in terms of current stuff, they found like arachnids scary. And I get it if you're afraid of spiders, but like, they don't really do anything.
No.
Oh god, have you guys seen the monsters from It Takes You Away that weren't in the final thing?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh, that is.
No, I haven't seen. Were they?
I'll find a picture for you.
Yeah, obviously, is it like the Spindle Man or something? That
I don't know.
I think is that I saw an image of that it wasn't in it. Yeah, I guess with like the current stuff, it doesn't really seem like there's really like much of like an effort to try and make things scary. Like, it seems
they
like
tried with Can You Hear Me, didn't they? With the whole it's the evil, fingers. It's like that. Which sounds really bad out of context as well.
Yeah, it does. It does.
They have to use fingers to like transfer the dreams. I don't know. It just they probably could have not done that. But I mean, that looks more scary than like ribbons.
True.
But no, like that they tried with Can You Hear Me, and it like that didn't feel scary at all to me. It's like, look, we can take your dreams. Compare that to something like The Nightmare Man, which is another Sarah Jane episode. Like, the tension that's built up in that one is so well done. Like, he's constantly afraid of falling asleep. Same with Amy's Choice in a way. There's like that fear of falling asleep and going to the other place. Yeah, it's like it's the same in that. It's like with that, there's no fear of going to sleep because they only get their dreams extracted or changed like once. And that's it. Like, well, there's no tension in this. Yeah. And then as like, what was the other one? Haunting in Villa Diodati, they tried to make scary. And like,
I like that one.
Granted, they did get a couple of jump scares, but again, I think it was hampered by the fact that it was part of the wider arc.
Yeah.
Like, if it was just a horror episode and that was it, I think it would probably benefited a lot better from just being that rather than, okay, let's have the Cybermen in it. I think it would have been better as just a horror thing, straight horror thing. Personally.
I think what's quite, I mean, especially on topic of Halloween, what date? It's good. It's going on Halloween, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully it all goes to plan.
What time roughly?
I don't know, to be honest. I'll probably schedule it for like maybe 8 o'clock, maybe 7:30.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, something like that.
So at this point, my Halloween special would have already gone out.
Yeah.
It's a review of Ghostlight. I just think Ghostlight's really creepy, just in the general atmosphere. I think I was talking to Max the other day, and he said that it's just sort of, even though some people don't get the story, I think the atmosphere enough is.
Wait.
Atmosphere alone.
Dead? Like,
sorry.
Isn't Max dead? Like,
oh yeah, sorry. Max's dead corpse on the TARDIS console room floor in the puddle of carrot juice told me that he quite likes Ghostlight for the weird sort of setup of it with like sort of weird de-evolved apes.
You've got more consistency.
Sorry, continuity in the Cynical Who lore. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like certain eras, I suppose, kind of put more effort into trying to like make it scary. Whereas like when you get the current run, like there isn't much of an effort, like other than like stories where they're almost like trying too hard to say this is the scary one. With like most of the stories, it's not very scary.
Would probably be the Moffat era, like overall, like that has the most horror-based episodes. You've got things like Listen, which is there's a lot of build-up, payoff really, but like you get the point. It's meant to sort of build up to be scary.
Listen tried so hard to be daring, it just failed miserably.
Yeah, I think
you've got like things then as well, like you've got things like God Complex and Night Terrors, and
that failed.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're great, but like you get my point that there's more of.
I just realised. Speaking on like I guess horror themed episodes, Ultimate Foe. The sort of bit when in the Matrix, that's quite terrifying.
Yeah, I think it's quite trippy. I think like just generally things where it's like quite trippy. I think are quite creepy.
Scary for me, definitely.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, as I said, that obviously certain eras make more of an effort to be scary. Yeah. I think like the Moffat era, sometimes it almost tried too hard. Like I kind of like I wouldn't say I dislike, but I think like you compare the RTD era to the Moffat era and the Chibnall era, and it almost seemed like the RTD era was just like scary effortlessly, whereas like when you get to the Moffat era, typically like the Capaldi era and then obviously the Whisker era, you get like these dedicated episodes where like this is the scary one. Whereas with the RTD era, there are like lots of episodes that weren't billed as the scary one, but were just scary anyway.
Think about it. I would say that RTD2 is more of a drama that just so happened to be scary occasionally. Whereas with Moffat, it was it was meant to be like a scary science fiction show that just happened to have some drama in it occasionally. That's how I would see like their different approaches. Because if you look at like Moffat's like plots, they're a lot more high concept sci-fi, very look, this is happening and now time travel and all that stuff. Whereas with like RTD, they are very linear in structure. You get one thing and then there's the end. There's no sort of I guess back and forth between like different time zones and different subplots and so I would say that, like, in general, that's how I would say it. I wouldn't say that, like, one approach is necessarily better than the other. Like, obviously, personal preference is a thing. Like, personally, like, I do prefer RTD style because I found it a lot more easy to follow and generally better quality because you didn't have to worry about keeping everything consistent and having everything have a good payoff. But, like, I think that, some people do like the higher concept things that aren't as focused on the drama, because if you look back at RTD, it was very focused on character-based drama, and don't get me wrong, Moffat had that as well, but I think he focused a lot more on the concepts, whereas RTD was a lot more character-focused. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I think with Moffat, you could obviously tell he was a horror writer. He liked writing like scary things, but I think a lot of the time, particularly in like his own era, he wasted a lot of monsters like that could be scary. Like I think like the Silence, the Whispermen, the Headless Monks all had like the potential to be really scary, but because they were just like kind of wasted on like the story arc where they weren't entirely necessary. They just kind of like didn't have
build up as to what Silence were, and then they were just like members of a church. And you're
yeah. So what? Yeah, I think that the Silence would have been so much better if they weren't to do like connected with the arc, because realistically, in like the Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon, they're like billed as like these like scary things that you like can't remember, and they've been at the dawn of human history, and they've been like molding like humanity to their own bidding since the dawn of time, and they're the reason why like we're going to space because they needed a spacesuit, and that's all kind of creepy. But then when you realise they're all from the future, it kind of like really doesn't make any sense. Like, why are the Silence there from the dawn of time? Why did they get humanity to go to space so they could get a spacesuit when they're from the future anyway? What are they even doing in 1969? It all kind of crumbles. When if that was just like a standalone story, when the Silence are in 1969, they've been moulding human history since the dawn of time, and they need the spacesuit for some reason, and they're not connected to like Demon's Run, I think that would have been like would have made them much creepier as a villain. Because in Series 6, I was watching it recently, obviously, and the Silence, that's like their big series, and they're not really like in it an amazing amount to like be billed as like all this big threat, because then you get like the Headless Monks, which are just kind of pointless. Like they don't really do anything, and like in Wedding of a Song, the Silence whole gimmick of you can't like remember them isn't really used that much. They're just kind of there to kill people. Yeah, I just think they could have been used a lot more. I think had they been like their own thing, they could have become like be remembered as like this really creepy Doctor Who monster. Hey! Fair enough. You're on it more than me. Yeah, I think, but Moffat does it like more with, like I said, Headless Monks, Whispermen. Like they're kind of creepy and they just do nothing. Like, so I think, whereas in the RTD era, like, because obviously Moffat only had a certain amount of stories, if he had a creepy idea for a monster, he used the full effects of that monster. Whereas in his own era, he just had creepy ideas and would just throw them around with, like, he didn't really have anything for them to do. He'd just be like, yeah, waste it on that story. And yeah, I think that's why, ultimately, the Moffat era, like, there aren't, like, as many directly, like, iconic scary monsters, even though there were like lots of probably more potentially scary things than in the RTD era.
Moffat is one of those writers though who kind of needs someone to stop him.
Yeah,
it's like that bit in Runaway Bride where Donna's like, sometimes I think there needs to be someone there to stop you. I think that's where like what Moffat needs. You need someone to go, oh, okay, just pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, me. Just stop it.
Just pull it back a bit. What does this all actually mean? What's it all going to culminate towards? I think that's why he works better in like the RTD era, for example, because he's given a direction and a sort of template, and he's kind of his like wacky ideas are basically constrained a bit, if that makes sense, so that they can sort of be used effectively within that framework, rather than like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go mental with this and split a series into 2 halves just because I can, all that stuff. And it's like, I do think he needs that. Although I will say, let's give Moffat some credit here. At least he has ideas for that.
Yeah, that's true. I think that I do agree. I think with like Series 5, for me at least, I know not everyone agrees, but I think Series 5 is like near perfect in terms of like how it's plotted and everything like that. I think it's like when you get Series 6 onwards, like you do need someone to like stop him or advise him to do this. I think if you had like Mark Gatiss as like maybe, you know, in a bigger role, then maybe he would have been able to say, listen, Moffat, you know, maybe doing this isn't such a good idea.
I was watching his video on Series 6 the other day, and he said that Series 5 has still followed a relatively RTD-based like template. Like a lot of the there's a lot of similar tropes in it, but just injected with Moffat's
Yeah.
wild ideas. And I think that's what he should have continued to do.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I get that he wanted that to sort of act as a transitional series, but in my opinion, like, that balance between, you know, the sort of more constrained structure and style of the RTD, but mixed with some of his crazy ideas, made for the perfect, like, Doctor Who, in my opinion. If he just carried on in that direction, I don't think people would have as many issues with his era than they ended up having, because it was just so wildly inconsistent, whereas if you'd followed that template, I think it would have removed some of the inconsistency. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that template, although it was obviously pioneered by RTD, I think you look at Series 5, that template perfectly suits Moffat's story arcs and, like, how to implement it throughout the series. So then when you get to Series 6, which is just all over the place in terms of, like, stories and what order they are in and all that kind of stuff, like, how he did it in that really doesn't suit, like, how he needs to implement his story arc, whereas obviously the RTD format does work, and obviously no Moffat series has the same template. They're all wildly different to each other.
I think that's the problem. I do think, I know that makes me sound like a, you know, boring classic, you know, like, fan, but, like, it does need some form of consistency between series. You know, you can't. Like, that's kind of the problem, is that, like, with Moffat, every series would be a different thing. Like,
I was just thinking, Series 7, when he split that in half, you can't watch Series 7 as a whole menu.
No, you can't.
Shit, but you can't, like, there's such a difference. It's like Series 7, like, is it A or Part 1 or whatever they call it? Like, you change to it goes to the Snowman, and after that, it's like, it's supposed to be it's supposed to be Series 7, but there's a different companion, different TARDIS, different costume, different title sequence.
Oh, I know.
It's like, it's a completely different series.
It is.
But, like,
It's completely different.
I'm gonna probably do a video at some point defending 7B, because I've realised that
7A.
that conceptually, in terms of what it, you know, the thing it's trying to achieve, I think it actually makes a lot of sense. What you got to remember is that this is, you know, the Doctor's final days, essentially. He's just lost his two companions, so he's just been reminded that, you know, life is very fickle and that death is coming for him. Kind of similar to how the Watcher acts in Legopolis, but on a much more personal level. So he's just been reminded of death. So this is sort of his final victory lap sort of thing, where he's like, okay, let's take, because he takes Clara to, you know, Rings of Akaten land, which he went to with Susan. But that's, in a way, a cyclical thing. Like, he's going back to the beginning, in a way. And I think that how he acts in that series and the sort of idea of him being at the end of his life is actually shown really well. And, like, the idea of it being his sort of final days is sort of shown really well. The reason people don't pick up on
closing time.
what was that?
They did that quite well in closing time, but then he didn't die.
That's the thing.
This is the problem. People don't appreciate the themes of 7B because the idea of the Doctor being close to death is overdone.
Yeah,
it was done in Series 6 and it was done in Series 9 with
End of Time, I guess.
Yeah, End of Time. Yeah,
just the whole of specials in Series 4.
Yeah, so, like, it's overdone. But if you actually take it for what it is on its own, it's a man who's old and at the end of his life, and he's just trying to enjoy the final few years of it before he eventually has to die. And I think that is explored very well, because you can tell in, like, the Rings of Akaten speech and stuff, he is at the end of his tether. You know, he's ready to give up with, you know, just take it and go. He's ready for that to be over, but he still survives. Yeah. And obviously his life ends with the biggest test of him literally going to his own tomb. If you can't get much more obvious about, you know, a character's impending doom than the fact that they literally go to their own grave. You know, like, that's, I think that there's a lot of cool stuff about death and regret and stuff in that series that people just sort of don't see because it's overdone. And I think it's a shame. Not, you know, like, the episodes aren't perfect, but I think thematically it's definitely there. Like, is if you think about it, like, it's the difference between Snowman. He just wants to live out his final years in, like, cynicism, but through Clara, he realizes, no, this isn't the right way to sort of go out. You know, at least if I'm going to go out, I might as well go out with a bang. So he gets this, you know, nice new outfit and sort of just does all the cool stuff that he did in the beginning. And you know, it's just, I don't know. I think there's a nice cyclical nature to it that I don't see.
That's a great thing about season 18 is also quite atmospheric. Like obviously you mentioned the Watcher, but like Tom Baker, he's changed his costume.
That's true. Yeah.
Basically about to die. It's quite.
That's essentially what 7B is. But obviously, as I said, people don't give it its due dividends because it's done so much. And I think Series 9 more than anything was the one that sort of makes us look back on Series 7B worse. In a weird way, because obviously with Series 9, you open the series with him going, "I'm dying," you know, and it's like I'm gonna ride a guitar, and it's like, but that's done.
Ride a guitar,
ride a tank with a guitar, and it just looks so. It's just so bad that I think it sort of soured the idea of that concept in general. I think that now when you look back at Series 7B, a series that's very much reliant on the idea of the Doctor, being close to death, and at the end of his tether with it. I think that on its own, if you take it for what it is, it's really well done. And as well, he meets his past incarnations, and he can't tell them that he's about to die. He says, "Where am I going?" And he's like, "Spoilers," and it's like, no, you can tell he doesn't want to even say it to himself because it might be real in his head. There's some real good ideas with it that I wish people gave it credit for, really. I know it's not executed the best, but to say it's devoid of any sort of themes or narrative, and it's just, oh, the Doctor goes on silly adventures with Clara. It's not quite as vapid as some people make it out, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that with Series 7, I think it just could have been focused a bit more, because this with Series 7, it's like you were saying, Cynical, it's like that you can't just have it as one thing, that you can't put down Series 7 as one thing, because it's so all over the place and disjointed and has so many things going on where it doesn't feel like one series. And I think that's probably why that theme that you said about the Doctor being close to death doesn't come across as well as it could have done, because it's just not focused upon. Whereas I think if you'd had Amy and Rory leave in Series 6 and then had a whole series with Clara, then you could have properly built up to that theme. And I think the problem also is we had no real idea the Doctor was properly going to die.
But then again, though, I partially think if you make it too obvious, you run the risk of making the same mistake that Series 9 did, where
True.
it's I'm dying, know.
Yeah.
It's very melodramatic and very, which I personally.
I see what you mean about the themes. It's the themes of it are the whole Doctor gonna die thing. I think the problem is the stories are just crap. I don't like any of them.
I mean, I've always seen it as my guilty pleasure series, because it's one of those ones that I sort of put on, knowing it's not the best, but at the same time can't help but find myself enjoy. It's that weird middle ground where it's I can see that you're not as high quality as, say, something like Series 4, where everything's just hit after hit, or Series 5. But at the same time, I can't really get mad at it either, because it's just, there is a certain sincerity to it that I find is lacking in current stuff, and to a lesser extent, I suppose, Capaldi's. I think, obviously, as I said, Series 9 retreads a lot of the same ground, but just not as well, in my opinion. And then Series 10, it feels like they're doing a reboot for the sake of doing a reboot.
Yeah.
And then Series 8, they do the good man thing, which is a good concept, but it's not. I think that should have been 12's arc overall, rather than just have it resolved in one series. Thinking about it,
I think the problem is like you said, it's repeated, and I'm pretty sure only 2 of Moffat's 6 series don't have the Doctor looking towards his death in some form, which is Series 5 and Series 8. Series 6, he's thinking he's going to die. Series 7, he's looking towards his death. Series 9, he's looking towards his death. And Series 10, he's also kind of looking towards his regeneration.
Moffat had a bit of a death.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it, a death fetish. He just seems to do it all the time.
Yeah, I think also the problem is that like I like things where you've got like this character towards the end of their tether and they're like almost looking towards their death. That's why I like The Dark Knight Rises so much. I think the problem with Doctor Who is that when you try and do it, you run the risk of treating regeneration like a death when it isn't. So I think that's the thing, is maybe like it's a bit of a missed opportunity with Series 7, is that was literally his actual death. So
yeah, the reason it works Series 7 though is because he knows that there aren't any regenerations.
Yeah.
That's another reason why it doesn't work in Series 9's case, because if you go by what we're told in Time of the Doctor, you've literally just had a new regeneration cycle.
That's true.
And the reason why it probably won't work ever again now that Jodie knows she's got infinite regenerations, really.
Yeah. That's true. To be fair, actually, I haven't watched Series 9 in a while, but so I can't actually remember. Why does the Doctor think he's going to die? Like, I still never really understood why he thinks that in that series.
I actually can't remember. I just remember getting a confession dial and being like, oh, this is what Time Lords get when they're going to die.
Yeah.
But,
he's like having a midlife crisis and stuff, but it's not really obvious why.
I've realised what's happening. He's on building sounds. Tom is John Lumick, and that's his Cyberman conversion in the back room.
That's why
I'm
you
just
have to
thinking,
buy it.
it's like in Doomsday when there's like the construction work, and it's actually just a Cyberman conversion unit in the top of Canary Wharf.
Figured out.
Free burgers for all.
My cyber army will rise. Oh, there you go. But yeah, is there any other questions?
Yeah, there's a few. We kind of went on a tangent about this, but no, I do think it's interesting what you said about this kind of stuff, and yeah, I think 7B. I mean, I probably prefer it to 7A. I think it's weird just because it feels so different to 7A, so it's really hard to like. Even the recent Steelbook judges it as like two different series with like two different covers on like the back and front. Like,
I think I like the death of the Ponds. I like how it gets rid of them. Gets rid of them probably the wrong word. Obviously, how they die is probably a better way of describing it. But like other than that, I think that it's nowhere near as thematically rich as its sort of later half.
Yeah, I think so. It's just kind of like specials. Like, I always think of it as like, because obviously I'm watching 7A now in my marathon, and like the Ponds go home at the end of every story and get picked up the beginning of every story. They could have been specials like the Tennant specials, like broadcast at completely different parts of the year. So that's what they feel like, the whole blockbuster movie every week. They kind of feel a bit pointless.
There was also the fact that the Amy and Roy divorce subplot came out of nowhere.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
Getting a divorce? I was like, okay.
Never mentioned before, never mentioned since.
And across literally 2 stories, or if that?
What, the divorce? It spans one story.
No, it was like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
that was so weird.
It's like the last episode of Pond Life in Asylum of the Daleks, and that's it. I'm pretty sure.
That's another reason why I think 7B is better than 7A, is because like with 7B, the idea of the Doctor dying has been something that's been, sort of foreshadowed before, whereas the divorce subplot, like, there was no foreshadowing for that whatsoever.
That's true. That's true.
It was there. It was like it was in Pond Life. Was it Pond Life?
Yeah, I think it was Pond Life.
Raggedy Man, we need you, and like
it is.
Down and all that bollocks. Yeah, but you shouldn't need to make a short to explain a fundamental like story development in your series, in my opinion. Yeah. Can you imagine like if like the Timeless Child thing was just explained in a short? I mean, then again, might be better that way.
I mean, little short episodes of Roof, that'd be cool. But, like,
that would be cool, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Big Finish will take care of that in an array of box sets. The Ruth Adventures.
To be fair, that wouldn't be a bad idea, doing like a Pond Life, but for now, because obviously there's not going to be like Doctor Who for absolute ages. So it wouldn't be a bad idea, maybe having like mini Ruth Adventures where she encounters Jodie or something, and just
the right to it, I think, because I think they only have the rights till to the end of Capaldi. They haven't got anything.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yet. So I don't know. I don't know whether they'll be able to do it yet. I can definitely see.
He was talking about just like the show in general doing it, but obviously.
No, I think Wait, were you talking about Big Finish specifically, or just the show?
No, I was just talking about like shorts, like Pond Life. Really, like they could do that again with Big Finish. Obviously, I'd love them to do more Roof Adventures, but as you said, like obviously the licensing thing, it's obviously.
As soon as they said it, like as soon as they sort of like made every Doctor canon in Timeless Children, I just imagined like Big Finish rubbing their hands together because now they could just make any Doctor they want, and it can
Root Unbound series.
They will do it though. Like mark my words, it'll happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be. It might be. Probably be good because Big Finish, they are quite high quality. As much as we give them shtick for like making a series out of anything, like the series stuff that I have listened to that they've done is really good.
I like when Big Finish does sort of meta stuff. If you probably haven't listened to The Natural History of Fear, that's brilliant. That's like there's like it's like Paul McGann and his companions, the usual cast, but they're not in their roles, and like they live in like this dystopian world, and they like air Big Finish audios over the radio. It's quite good. It's like because there's some Unbound, like they did the series. It's like with other Doctors and
It's kind of like that one comic where they go to a world where like Doctor Who's been made into a TV show, and they fight like the mechanoids.
I've got there's some. I've read a comic with the Eighth Doctor that has some like. Randomly, like the Earth splits open. There's like real pictures printed onto the comic. It's like whoa. Yeah, I know it's weird.
Yeah, I think Big Finish are good at like that, and like even though they make like every single thing they can into a box set, they always find writers who are like invested in those stories. Which I think like you can't really be said for the TV show. Like a lot of the time, like with Moffat, he just wrote a Dalek or Cyberman story out of obligation and not because he was like massively invested in writing like a Dalek story. Whereas with Big Finish, every single word those writers are like really invested in writing that particular story, which I think is why you always get good results.
The Big Finish writers make the jump.
Yeah,
I think it would be really see how they. It'd just be interesting. It'd just be interesting. If it didn't work, then like and it would have to be the right one. Like,
I guess there's a lot more creative license with Big Finish, isn't there?
Robert Sheeman, he was a Big Finish writer. He wrote Jubilee.
Well, he adapted that one, didn't he?
Well, yeah, I know.
It was slightly different.
Yes, but he still worked that Big Finish. It's not unheard of.
No, I think mainly.
Yeah, his ideas only work on Big Finish. Like, could you imagine Scherzo done on TV or like the Home Terror?
No, but I think that for like Big Finish writers, for me it's just like the like interesting ideas. Like how long has Big Finish has been like going on since like the end of the 90s, and they're still pumping out interesting Dalek stories. Yet somehow in the modern run that's been going on since 2005, they're running out of ideas for Dalek stories. Like there's clearly they clearly just have like so many different ideas, and I think when you get like the current show that's getting a bit stale with its monsters, to draft in some of these writers who have interesting ideas, I think would just be a good experiment.
I think a TV adaptation of the story Davros would be a really where like Davros takes over a company and like the Doctor's basically an incidental character who like works with Davros at the company.
I feel weird. There's a Big Finish story that you both have listened to that I have.
that is weird.
I own it. I have it, but I just don't listen to it.
No, I'm just kidding. You've listened to way more Big Finish than I have. But no, that's a really good one because it's kind of a Doctor light. The Doctor's more like an incidental character in that one, and like it can work with any incarnation pretty much because it's more just about like Davros and like his morality, and the Daleks aren't even in it. It's literally Davros, and he just takes over a company, and it's like, all right, because it sort of talks about like his philosophy that the most efficient sort of way to run a place is to have it operate during wartime because everyone's like desperate and operates to like their maximum efficiency, which is
like the Armageddon factor, maybe.
I don't know. Like I haven't seen listen to the Armageddon, but whichever one it is.
It's a Tom Baker episode.
Yes, season 16.
Well, I haven't seen it.
I don't like when fans drift that. Like, I'll compare something to like another, not even like expanded media. Like it'll be like a classic episode. People be like, "Oh, I haven't seen it, so that doesn't count." It's like, well, shut up.
I think I didn't know which one you were referring to. So.
No, it's the finale for the Key to Time series.
All opinions are valid.
Fair enough.
I'm a good boy, you know? I'm a nice man. I think, like, in terms of, I don't know whether you had any other questions, but I feel as though I sort of covered most of the Halloween stuff.
I suppose I've got a few more things here. I suppose, like scariest eras. I guess we kind of covered that a bit when we spoke about like Moffat and RTD. But I suppose, like, in terms of like the classic series.
Oh, I suppose early Hinchcliffe as well.
Yeah.
Like
Stuff like Image of the Fendal, Brain of Morbius. That's sort of
Yeah, there's obviously
Gothic style.
Yeah.
But the Eric Sayward kind of era as well would sort of be up there as well.
That's just very dark, I think.
Yeah.
I think it has scary moments though, like
Revelation of the Daleks, Two Doctors.
Kind of make fun of the bird scene in Vengeance on Varos, where she gets like morphed into a bird. But like, I actually think that is quite a horrifying concept.
It is quite horrifying when you think about it.
I forgot about that.
Mind Warp in Trial of Time Lord as well. I think that is quite the concept in that, like
Yeah.
a weird like alien guy who's like I don't know, is he like a knight to the king guy?
What, Yukanos?
Yeah.
Right, Brian Blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, the understudy of that guy.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
Creature.
Oh, yeah, he gets turned in. Is it the one who gets turned into like a dog? That guy.
Yeah. That effect looked genuinely quite good. I don't know whether you guys agree, but like, I think for Classic Who that looked like genuinely quite good.
Yeah, I think so. I think like stories like Vengeance on Varos and like
Two Doctors is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, Two Doctors, Revelation of the Daleks. I think there is like an effort on just trying to make it like dark and disturbing.
No, I was just gonna say because they didn't like Patrick Troughton's hair.
Oh,
that's why it's scary.
I got that figure. Because I made an unboxing. I went to B&M a few days ago. I made like a collection. I think I'm just gonna stop doing those now. I didn't bother to edit it. I just don't want to upload it. Like, but basically, I've got a little 5-inch Patrick Troughton with bright orange eyebrows. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was really weird because I saw that set. I don't own it, but I saw it before I'd watched the Two Doctors, and I thought it was like they'd painted it wrong. I was like, why does he have orange eyebrows? And I watched the Two Doctors, and I understood it.
So it might be an unpopular opinion, but I think the Two Doctors is fine without Patrick Troughton. Like, he didn't really need to be in it. I love that story; it's really good, but I just think Patrick Troughton doesn't add too much to it. He's great, but.
Yeah, he's not in it an amazing amount, is he?
Which I guess is good, because I don't know, I think Jamie's great.
Yeah, Jamie's great in it. I think them as like a free Colin, Perry and Jamie work really well as a free. I actually quite like the Two Doctors, but I would agree, like, Troughton's not in it that much. You arguably could have cut him. It's a bit of a messy story, but I enjoy it. But yeah, I think with like the 80s and stuff, as particularly obviously Colin, there's a much more emphasis on trying to make it like really dark and disturbing. And whereas I think with like the Hinchcliffe stuff, it was much more like gothic. And
I think the difference is kind of with Hinchcliffe, he did it because that was just his style of writing. Hayward, it was him actively trying to do it.
Yeah.
I think to try and capitalize on like the booming like video nasties back then.
Yeah.
Capitalize and sort of appeal to that crowd a bit more. You know, with the sort of gore aspect of it. But like,
a lot of the 60s episodes are quite terrifying, like Fury from the Deep or
That's true.
Fear. Like with that, I think especially black and white.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like the surviving shots in Fury from the Deep. Because I did my review. There's obviously the gassing scene. That's terrifying. But there's the scene where Van Lutyens gets like dragged down the elevator shaft, like by the weed. It's so scary.
Yeah, I'd agree with in terms of 60s, and I spoke about on a podcast before, but I think that like the 60s is just like such a lot of those stories are just, I find very, very creepy, just because like the black and white, and I know there's something about that era that like even like stories like the Aztecs or the Censorites I find a little bit like creepy, just because it's like the black and white and kind of like that it feels a bit like unknown and like detached from all other Doctor Who
themes. Like I don't know. You must have seen the massacre. That's a grim episode. Like it's the Doctor and Steven. I'll try not to spoil too much, but they're in France, aren't they? And they know that like an awful massacre is going to happen like the next day, and they need. I don't know why they're there. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they need to get out as soon as possible, and it's really grim. I was like, it's like the whole Fires of Pompeii or Wars of Mars situation. They know this terrible thing's going to happen, and they just have to stay and witness it.
Yeah.
It's really terrifying. And at the end of it, Stephen leaves, doesn't he? And then he comes back a few minutes later.
If you remove the first episode of Unearthly Child from the context that we know that the Doctor's a good guy and stuff, like it's quite an unnerving concept from someone who doesn't know the Doctor is. You've got this creepy old dude who's in a shed-looking thing with like a young girl, like that could be quite.
And then he hits someone over the head with a hammer in a spade in Reign of Terror. He's like in prison with not in prison, but he's like a slave sort of working for these people. He just gets a spade and whacks them all over the head and runs off.
Yeah,
isn't it in the Romans as well? He starts like just beating people up.
The Romans.
Is it the Romans?
There's a bit.
I think so, probably. Yeah. Like he puts a pot over someone's head, doesn't he, and throws them out the window.
Season 2 story, he just starts like beating people up, saying, "Oh yes, I am mighty skilled in the art of fisticuffs." So,
yeah. That is the Romans. Yeah. I know that.
There's a bit in An Unearthly Child where he's like about to kill a guy, like full on kill him, and he stops.
Yeah. So, like, I think like the Doctor's character, if you didn't know who he was and you just started with the '60s stuff, would be quite unnerving to watch.
Yeah, it's kind of he's very unpredictable. You really don't know how he's going to react. Which
kind of similar with Sylvester McCoy, obviously to a lesser extent, but like especially in his later sort of years, he had like the sort of chess master thing going on.
Yeah,
he never quite knew what he was going to do. Like what he betrayed Ace's trust in what's the story? The one that you have to do. No, Ghostlight, where he takes her back to Paravale with the house. Yeah. Burnt down, without telling him, and the fact that like he uses everyone as pawns, that is quite an interesting concept.
Yes, Silver Nemesis, Dragonfire, Cuz Fenric especially.
Remembrance literally just plots to kill everyone and does it, and like and it's seen as a good thing.
Yeah, I suppose I guess this is like an interesting idea. Do you guys think like the Doctor should be like more creepy and unpredictable? Because obviously I think in the current era the Doctor really isn't like that unpredictable.
Again, Zagreus. I don't think you lose all faith in the Doctor in like Zagreus because McGann suddenly turns on everyone and it's like really terrifying. It's like what the
creepy would be the right word for me, but morally grey.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Fifth Doctor on the podcast that me, Tom, and Harbo do, and I was saying like. The only thing that really sets the Fifth Doctor's character off for me is when he's put in these dark situations like Resurrection of the Daleks, Frontios, Kezran Dazani, and he's like he takes like someone hands him a gun in Resurrection of the Daleks and he takes it and doesn't. Yeah. He must shoot someone at some point. I don't know, but it's
that Tennant, which is the man.
Yeah. And then John Pertwee's just kicking people in the face, left, right, and centre.
Yeah, that's true.
You definitely think more morally grey because the new series, I think, out of a fan compulsion, tends to like, godify the Doctor a little bit, and I think part of that is because all the showrunners have been fans, so they feel the need to make the Doctor this.
Well, they were doing that in the McCoy era. I'm making a video on that, but
yeah, to a certain extent, but like. You also, I think there was an element of morally grey to Sylvester's Doctor, okay, fair enough. I mean, they were literally going to reveal he was God, like an actual God in Silver Nemesis. Yeah, but that like gods aren't always necessarily good.
True.
So like you can have a morally grey God, but like that's what I mean. Like with the current ones, far too often can they never be wrong. Far too often are they always right, particularly in this current era. The only time, to my knowledge, 13 has been wrong is in Saranga Conundrum, where the guy's like, "Oh, you can't do that," and she's like, "Oh yeah, sorry," and then he gets like ejected like 2 seconds later, and you're like, "Well, It's like, what is that?
I completely forgot that happened. Oh, Christ.
The Doctor not allowed to be wrong anymore.
Yeah.
Like, anyone who like dares disagree with him must die. It's very strange, and like obviously, I'm not just saying it's a Chibnall thing, but it seems to have just come to a head in the Chibnall era because like none of the companions ever questioned the Doctor.
So you're not saying it's a Chibnall thing, but it's a Chibnall thing.
To be fair, I don't just think it's in his era. I think the whole idea of like companions not questioning him happens in other stories, like in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. The Doctor just kills that guy, and it's never like brought. Like no one questions the Doctor for like flat out killing Solomon. It just happens.
It's sort of reached its peak at the Chibnall era. Like it existed before, but it's reached. And also, the Dinosaurs on a Spaceship comparison is good because who wrote Dinosaurs on a Spaceship?
Chibnall, yeah.
Exactly. So there you go. Yeah, it's just weird to me that like the Doctor does all these morally questionable things and the companions just go along with it.
Pretty much.
Like there couldn't have been one scene where Graham was like, "Hey Doc, do you think we should have killed that? The spiders, let them slowly suffer, or were we really in the right there? Like, you know what I mean? Like the only time they question it is with the Tim Shaw thing.
Yeah.
And like even then, she's right. And then like when Graham shoots his foot, he's like, "Oh, don't tell the Doc she'll be living." It's almost like they're afraid to disagree with her.
I think you spoke about like how the entire new series kind of makes the Doctor into a bit of a perfect character, which I kind of agree with. But I think even then you get like instances of like Tennant or Matt Smith where they do things morally grey. Like obviously with Tennant it's the old time Lord Victorious thing, and with Matt Smith's you get stories like The Girl Who Waited where obviously the Doctor's very morally questionable. That you just don't really get that with Jodie Whittaker. I think if anything that would be a really good thing for her to have. That.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think she needs to be pulled up on her shit a bit more. Because, like, I think there isn't really no one's really held her accountable for anything. There needs to be like a Dream Lord style episode, because like the Dream Lord basically just tears the Doctor apart. In Amy's Choice, you need that sort of episode where there's like just a villain that questions all their actions. At first, I thought, what's the guy from Can You Hear Me called?
Zelen.
Yep, Zelen. Why do they all sound so goddamn similar? The characters. Ian, Zelen, like all the ins, a lot of ins. But yeah, like Zelen was saying about, Doctor, you're just a small, person with your little interferences. And I thought, okay, you're gonna call her out, and it's just like, nope. We must finish the episode now. And it's like, oh please, thank you.
And it is nice. I mean, to the companion, she has that sort of dark because she was hiding a lot of the whole. Ruth. I mean, there was the whole Gallifrey thing. But obviously, that's not much about her. But I mean, to the companion, she must.
Again, the companions don't call her out on it enough. That's they don't true. Because there's like that one bit, and I think it's the end of Fugitive of the Judoon.
I think it happened a few times, though, didn't it?
You don't know me, but the thing is, it doesn't last long enough. There'll be like 2 seconds where it's like, you don't know me, and then a second later they're like, no, we do know you, and they're like, oh, we're all right now. Let's go to the next.
Hey, fam.
Yeah,
it doesn't last. There's no lasting. There's no lasting consequences with it. So it's all just wrapped up neatly by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Like for example,
bring the Candyman back.
To be fair, I wouldn't mind that. After listening to Ravenous, I think
he's so really cool in that. He's so
great.
Cool.
You'd actually be good to bring back.
I tell you what I want to see. I want to see Jodie after like the end of an episode, run into a room, just see the Candyman eating like a pie, and it's got in the pie is Ryan, Graham, and Yaz, and he's just eating the Doctor's companion. You just have to sit and watch him eat his companion pie. That would be awesome.
Are you like making it into a Sweeney Todd thing where they produce like pies out of people?
Chicken Run, but Doctor Who.
I mean, I picked like a play. You picked 2000.
I don't want to be a pie.
I do have that accent, and they all have that accent as well. So it would be like,
oh no, Yaz, I'm turned into a pie. I don't like it. I got chips and pie chips. I got chip stuff.
I got chips. Oh. The gravy slowly gets poured. What are we doing? We're just creating a scenario in which the companions get turned into ham.
That would be cool though, don't I?
What would you reckon the Doctor's favourite pie would be? Like if he had to eat.
I don't know. She's custard cream pie.
No, I mean like if she had to eat Italians. Like, because like Graham would be like, you know, I imagine he'd be like eating a raisin, you know, it'd be like,
oh, that's so rude.
And then Ryan, I mean, Ryan is quite.
You're quite bland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite.
Yeah, have a bit of Yasmin pie.
we are literally.
That's got to be something for someone. I was thinking more just they all get mixed into one pie, and she has to watch him eat it, or like he drinks it with a straw or something. I don't know.
What's the episode? Series 3.
Smith and Jones. She was in Curse of Fenric as well.
Was she?
Yeah, she was Judson's. She just wheeled him about.
I can relate.
Oh, no.
Just turn around, you got the plasma ball behind you.
Yeah. Is there any other questions?
Oh Christ! Oh yeah, there are. I suppose obviously we've spoken about scary stories, scary monsters, scary eras. I guess even we've
Scary pies.
scary pies. Yeah. What was the Candyman say? Like, feel the back of his candy hand. That's
Oh yeah. Oh,
he's a candy man of his word.
The Doctor kills him by pouring lemonade on him, doesn't he? Because it melts his like sweets.
Yeah.
How did the Bassett people not sue? Is my question. You know, the licorice.
They did, didn't they? Yeah, that's why they can't bring him back in the original form. That's why in Ravenous he looks different, because they can't bring the Candyman back like that, otherwise they'll get sued.
Oh, I didn't. How did they even get away with it?
I have no idea. To be fair, the thing is that I actually quite like the Happiness Patrol. It's quite a dark story, but when you're just like describing it to someone who has no idea what it is, it just sounds ridiculous.
Right. Okay. So basically,
I described Paradise Towers to someone who's never seen it.
Oh Christ!
I love Paradise. Paradise Towers is great though.
I enjoy Paradise Towers. To be fair, it's fun, but Christ, oh dear, there's no way I'm going to explain that to
I'm just trying to keep this on the old track.
This is just derailed.
You're a red Kang or something. You're unalive.
What was that?
You're cringe.
No,
Blue Kang's ice hot.
I'm just conscious that I have to leave like in a bit, so I'm like trying to keep this, trying to tickle the boxes before I have to leave.
Go for lunch with the Rezzies.
Yeah, you know, I've got like, you know, YouTuber dinner going on. Conference.
I suppose, obviously we've kind of covered a lot of topics really here. I suppose I've got a couple, I guess, like, is it still scary now, and why do you think it's not scary now? Do you think it's like an age thing, or do you think it's something more than that?
It's a bit shit, isn't it?
I think things get scarier the more, like, when you get older, the more you mature, and you start to realise the, I guess, darker aspects of episodes.
I think the problem, though, is that, like, because I'm, like, getting to that age now, like, I'm almost 18 now, it's like, I'm looking for those more mature themes in my shows, and unfortunately, they're just not really there in the current iteration. I get the argument, oh, it's just a kid's show, it's meant to be, like, it's like, if you look at what Moffat did, there was a lot of, you know, darker themes involved in it, and we sort of discussed in this, whereas in, like, they just sort of dropped the wall for this current, like, era. It's like, yeah, the Doctor's lost her home planet. Boring, seen that, done that, bought the t-shirt. Let's get something else, you know? I'm just, it's, I don't know. I just think that they've missed an opportunity to not really accommodate to the people who've grown up with, like, Moffat era stuff.
I suppose so.
Which is more dark and mature. Like, they haven't really, they've just sort of completely abandoned that crowd in favour of a, like, 8-year-old demographic.
Yeah, it does seem to have taken a step back in terms of, like, its age. Like the target audience.
I don't know many people in my school who watch like the current show regularly. Like I overheard a conversation in sixth form study area, one of them, that was like someone talking about what was it? It was a series 3 episode. I think it was Smith and Jones actually, because they were talking about the Doctor being on the moon or something. So I'm guessing it was the series 3 episode. And it was like
could have been Kill the Moon.
No, it wasn't, because they did like a Tennant quote, so it would have been probably that one. But anyway, like they were talking about like an old era of the show, but like I never hear anyone talking about like, oh, what did you think of Fugitive of the Dude when that came out? Like, nobody does. I think that kind of. Wait, what did you like in school?
Well, I mean, it's weird because you go to quite a big school, but like there's literally no one else who watches Doctor Who in my school. It's quite a small school, but
I'm in a massive school and there's like no one who watches.
I mean, me and my friends, they were the casual audience. Like back when Series 11 came out, because it was on the Sunday, we come in on the Monday about it. We just have like a period in the morning when we just chat about last night's Doctor Who and just take the piss out of Ryan. I think I just sort of got bored of doing that. Actually, I can't remember what happened.
Yeah, to be
bottom line, no, I don't think it's scary anymore.
No, I don't think so. I think naturally, like, obviously, when I was younger, I got scared by more things than I would now. But I think also, like we said, there is a lot less of like effort put into to make it scary now. And obviously, the target audience seems to have like been.
I'm like a pussy when it comes to being scared. I can get scared by pretty much anything.
So can I.
And if your show can't even scare me, you're doing something wrong. Like, and you're trying to scare me, and it can't even scare me. Then
I think maybe Haunting of Villa Diodati or It Takes You Away was the last time I was.
It Takes You Away. I don't see how that's scary. I don't really.
Yeah, okay. I guess that did try quite hard and didn't really live up to it.
I think they were trying to do like a Coraline type deal, where it's like
the other world thing.
The alternate world's kind of like, oh, look, happy and stuff, but like you can't really explore it as well in like a 50-minute episode. With, like,
just watch Ghostlight. I'm sorry, like I've just made me think that's everything Ghostlight is. It's just so good.
I know, but like I'm just saying that they tried to do that in Series 11 and failed spectacularly. And then Series 12, obviously, Haunting of Villa Diodati does have its like jump scares, but it's a lot of manufactured,
Yeah.
Like fear of the concept rather than anything else. It's more, oh look,
that one's quite scary.
We just don't explain what they are. It's like, like we still don't know who those ghost people were.
That's true. They're just like, who are they?
They're just there.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
It almost felt like a Scooby-Doo episode in a way, where there's just like ghosts in a house, just cars. And it's like,
I think that was because the time field messed up, didn't it? So it might have just been literal people from other times.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in Torchwood, and that one with the hospital.
If that's the case, why were they acting creepy?
Because maybe they were just weird people.
Why was
the person acting creepy in Torchwood?
I mean, I haven't seen Torchwood, so you can't really use.
You've not seen Torchwood?
No, I've said this before. I've got it on Blu-ray, I just haven't watched it.
Wow, please do watch them. A Day in the Death is perfect.
Then again, you're like 12, so how have you even watched Torchwood?
I think I did watch it when I was 12.
That explains a lot about you.
Yeah.
But yeah, was there anything else? I'm just conscious of like
out of time. I suppose like the last really thing I were to speak about is that, you know, do you think that there should be like a Halloween special, or do you think that could work, or you know, because it's something I thought about before, but I don't know if it would, like...
I think if they try to it'd be way too campy and way too like I don't know, just a bit cringe for like.
They did Waters of Mars, that went out on. That was a sort of autumn one. That could have been a really cool Halloween.
Yeah, that would have been quite a cool one.
Do you know, like how with words? Do you know, like this is gonna be a really random comparison, but like the DreamWorks like specials.
Yeah.
Like it's Shrek, but it's Halloween. That's what I sort of imagined those episodes being like, because we kind of had a bit of a taste for it in Resolution in a way.
True.
Because like the fact that they're on New Year's Day like contributes nothing other than,
that's true.
Oh, the Wi-Fi's gone out on New Year's Day.
I want to see them do a really grim Christmas special, because they're like, oh, we've run out of ideas for Christmas special. One, it doesn't have to be Christmas themed.
That's
Two,
true.
Make it dark. Like, I know I always compare things to Big Finish, but do something like Death in Blackpool or Chimes of Midnight. Death in Blackpool is a grim Christmas episode.
People want on Christmas. They want something light and fun, and yeah, let's watch it with the family. If you put something sour on, and it might not really have the intended effect.
No, I don't care. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of it from the BBC's perspective. They want to
make it fluffy and scary, like a bear.
But then again, like, I don't know how fluffy Revolution's going to be.
That's true.
It's literally got the Doctor in prison, so I don't really know how uplifting of a Christmas episode.
You've got John Barrowman as well. He's going to be like, wait, Doctor.
was that your John Barrowman? Hey, Doctor. Hello, Doctor.
You know, Big Finish are actually hiring me soon.
Big Cynical Productions presents Captain Jack and the Sonic Enigma. I don't know, like something like that.
And the companion pie.
I don't know, because you know, Captain Jack would be like, he's like, oh, this is Adric. I remember what it tastes like. I was like, oh no. Actually, that reminded me. They did a Big Finish story called Companion Piece, didn't they?
That kind of no one's gonna get the joke. No one's gonna get that kind of turns me on joke.
Oh no, the rabbi pie.
Oh no. I hoped you weren't gonna say his name directly, but there we go. Yeah. The rabbi pie. Victoria, oh yeah, like, you know.
Oh no.
Well, I think that's my cue to part. I don't know whether you It's not going to get better than Rabbi Pie, so I'm going to...
That's true.
I love that so much.
Yeah, so
thank you for having me.
That's alright, so I guess we should wrap this up here, so yeah, oh Christ. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me, guys. Oh Christ.
Thank you for me on. I apologise.
No, it's fine. Thanks so much, guys, for coming on. Is there anything you guys want to plug before you go?
My new Ghost Light video.
I guess my Halloween video will be coming out the time that this comes out, so I guess
great.
that.
It's
very disturbing, to say the least.
Is it more disturbing than Rabbi Pie, though?
No.
Oh Christ.
Oh god. Just like if you haven't already,
subscribe to Pickles Parker.
Thank you very much.
And
also Cynical Who as well. And
Pickles Pie.
And I guess me if you want as well.
Yeah, subscribe to Cynical Who, subscribe to Tharries, check out all their content. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. And yeah, thank you for all the listeners that are still listening to this. If you didn't switch off at some point, then thanks so much. And yeah, cheers for coming on, guys. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me.
I will see you later.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys, for coming on, and yeah, thanks for watching, and of course, a good bye. Happy Halloween.
Bye.